Hello there, and a very warm welcome to Chazingdra Chats, the show where we take a stroll through the life stories of people in the Pokémon community, discovering the 6 Pokémon on their dream team along the way. I'm Charlie Merriman, merry by name, merry by nature, otherwise known as Chazingdra, a host and commentator for the Pokémon Video Game Championship Series, and a content creator. This week as every week, I very much hope my guests and I can make your day merry because I have the pleasure of being joined by James BAEK. James, how are you doing?
Great to be here, man. I'm doing well.
It's great to have you on the show. For the benefit of everyone watching and listening, James and I can't actually see each other right now. We just had all sorts of technical issues. We're just recording individually on OBS, and then we're going to sync up the videos, and it's all going to work out perfectly, right, James?
Yep. So his reactions, if I have something weird to say, I unfortunately won't be able to see it. He won't be able to see mine till we're editing.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll see how it turns out. We have the utmost faith in technology. I wish I could say that in all seriousness, but anyway, James, if anyone's not familiar with you, can you give a brief introduction to yourself?
I'm mostly known for competing in the Pokemon Video Game Championship, as I've been doing this for over 10 years now. I'm mostly known for my accomplishments in the Video Game Championship, as well as my role on YouTube for doing content on the Video Game Championship.
Yeah, you have so many incredible achievements to your name in the competitive Pokemon space, and yeah, I am, for one, a huge fan. I will often have it on in the background. I love how you try and make these Pokemon who we don't tend to see doing well in competitive tournaments, try and make them work. And I mean, it obviously takes a very talented trainer to be able to do that, such as yourself.
Well, I do think it's a fun challenge regardless, because there's a lot of content out there. We could use the standard teams, but you could get that anywhere. I think using the fun mons for videos makes it challenging, especially at the high level, which I think makes it a more enjoyable viewer experience.
Oh, for sure. But anyway, James, shall we do this? Shall we take a deeper dive into your life story and your 6 Dream Team Pokemon?
We shall.
Fantastic. Let's get going then. So, thank you for your honesty with what you're sharing with us today. Your first topic here, how you got into competitive gaming.
The classic. So, back in the early 2000s, or not early, but late 2000s, early 2010s, I guess you could call it, I was a very casual gamer. I was still a competitive person, I think, in my lifetime, but in general, when it came to video games, it wasn't exactly that good. When I entered my first Pokemon Regional Championship, for instance, I thought Wobbuffet was I almost brought Wobbuffet to my first Regional Championship. I didn't get into that Regional Championship because it was the lottery system back for VGC Regionals back in the days, so probably saved me some embarrassment there. In 2010, I brought a Jolly Kyogre, and if you know anything about competitive Pokemon, Jolly nature is really one of the worst natures you could run on Kyogre, so wasn't exactly that great at competitive games back then. I was able to beat my friends and people around me, but I wasn't able to mark it at the big leagues. So I think what really got me into competitive gaming in general was a beautiful game. One beautiful game that I just happened to go to GameStop this one random day in 2012, where I saw this game and was like, oh, that's the character from Super Smash Bros. Brawl, which I was a huge fan of. I loved playing that game, but I had no idea where this character came from. And it was the game Kid Icarus Uprising, which is still my favorite game to date. And that game bore so much to me because I played hundreds of hours on that game nonstop. It is still one of my favorite titles to ever play and even replay back. And I would still go back and replay to this day. And I just loved everything about this game. It had incredible story mode. It had incredible multiplayer as well. And that's actually what got me into competitive gaming, was the multiplayer in that game. Granted, the online servers weren't incredible, but back then there was Nintendo World, back when it was Nintendo World, now it's Nintendo NY, I think. And they used to actually host these tournaments for Kid Icarus Uprising for the free-for-all. And it was one of the competitive modes they had. So I got super deep into competitive, figuring out all the weapons, how to increase the attributes to be the most optimal. And that is basically how I got into competitive gaming, because it was actually the game that actually made me feel like I want to get better at something. And I was just enjoying every step of the process, every single win, every single loss. It was just a ton of fun. And that eventually translated into coming back into competitive Pokemon, because I was playing at the regionals technically, but I went to like 2 before then. And then after like the Kid Icarus Uprising kind of stopped because they did one final farewell tournament. Tournaments went down for Kid Icarus Uprising. I'm like, oh, I'll just pick up Pokemon because I still like Pokemon. And that's how I got into competitive gaming.
Wow, okay. So I guess the first question here is, for anyone unfamiliar like me, what is Kid Icarus?
Kid Icarus Uprising, I don't know if you know the Angel Pit as the Nintendo character, but it's the Angel basically. Kid Icarus Uprising was the sequel to the original Kid Icarus on the Nintendo. I don't even remember what console it was because I actually never played the original. But it was basically a 25-year-old sequel. It was like literally a incredible game for the 3DS. It was a shooter RPG. It was really fun, and yeah, I think a lot of people online talk about how it's still one of the most incredible games that was underrated back in the time of the 3DS era.
Wow, okay. And so you decided pretty swiftly after that you would pivot back into Pokemon. But I guess going way back, before you even attended your first competitive Pokemon tournament, had you always played it as a child? Had you always enjoyed the franchise?
I would say Pokemon has been a pretty big thing in my life. They even say rumors are that the anime was playing in my hospital bedroom when I was born. So that is the rumors. I'm not sure if that was the actual true storyline, but yeah, it's been a big thing in my life. I was watching it at my cousin's house back in the day when I was like really young. My best friends in elementary school, we'd be playing Pokemon. My first game console when I got the Nintendo DS was like playing Pokemon in general. And yeah, it's been a huge thing. Battle Revolution up to Gen 5, and then getting into the swing of things of true competitive in Gen 6 and forward. And now it's basically been an integral part of my life, I would say.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to taking a deeper dive into that at some point. And for anyone unfamiliar, yeah, Wobbuffet, who you mentioned right at the start there, a Pokemon that can deal no direct damage. It only responds to attacks. It can be powerful, but we never see it in competitive, but I love that you were considering bringing it. But from here, James, it's now time to discover what's going to be the first Pokemon on your dream team. So as a reminder, everyone, the aim here is not for James to build the most competitively viable team in any way, though he can do that if he wants. It's just to build a team that are composed of Pokemon that are the most special to him in some way, and he can define that however he would like to. I have no idea what they are. James has decided on these in advance. So tell us, what's going to be your first Pokemon, James?
I would say it has to be the Pokemon, my favorite Pokemon of all time. Literally the Pokemon that started my journey, or not started my journey, but it was like the first Pokemon I ever got for the console that I got to physically own as a kid, because I played Pokemon at my friend's house, as I mentioned before, but I didn't own a console till the DS era. And yeah, that was with a copy of Pokemon Pearl, and my first Pokemon, and my favorite one of all time, Piplup.
Piplup joining the dream team, yeah. Everyone remembers their first partner Pokemon very fondly indeed. Piplup, the little penguin water type first partner in Pokemon Diamond, Pearl and Platinum Generation 4. What do you think it was that drew you towards Piplup?
I think it was just I don't know, I just like Piplup in general. Like, there are some things you can't explain in this world. You could give the basic examples of like, oh, it's a cute penguin Pokemon, but it's just like, yeah, no, it was just like an instinctual thing. It was just me and Piplup bond together and knew that that was the mod for me.
Yeah, understandable. Would you find yourself often choosing the water type first partner?
I would say probably yes. I definitely was a Piplup for Gen 4. If we were talking about like the older gens, I don't know, it would vary a lot, because I think I would have gone Trico for Gen 3. Gen 2, I didn't really play too much until Heart Gold Soul Silver, so I don't really count that. And then Gen 1, like, I guess I was a Blastoise person over like Charizard or Venusaur, but I would say most of the time I probably lean into the water type, but it's like not like a huge lean. It's like probably 60%-ish, but yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I personally I often choose the water types myself, so interesting to hear. But Piplup, welcome to James's Dream Team, and everybody, if you're enjoying this chat with James, please do like and subscribe, as James can attest to. As a content creator, they really do go such a long way and far further than it might seem. But we're going to go straight from there into now, January 2013.
January 2013. If you don't know, for the real big OGs, I'd be shocked if I have like a few. I've actually met a few in person, and they still watch to this day. But even then, I'm like, wow, I cannot believe it. But January 2013 was the month I decided to start a YouTube channel, and I had no idea where this was going to go along, because the internet was still kind of brand new. Gaming was still not a huge thing on the internet back in the day. Like, I don't even think Twitch was even a thing yet. I think it was still Justin TV, if it was a thing back then. But yeah, I started a YouTube channel, and it changed everything. I started posting videos. I don't even remember if I started posting videos immediately, or they were posted and are probably now either unlisted or deleted, because this was a 13 to 14-year-old posting videos on the internet. So probably still not the greatest content in the world, but that is the month I did make my YouTube channel, and everything changed from there.
Now, you said in the notes that you sent to me before we recorded that you started this YouTube channel more as a fun project. So what sort of form would those videos take?
Oh, I mean, here is the thing. YouTube back then, you could get away with being lenient. It wasn't a high production you would see now with, like, I don't know, Mr. Beast or like all these documentaries being posted. YouTube was like a foreign land. It was a wild, wild west where you would be exploring a bunch of different avenues and content. It was all scuffed back in the day, but it was an enjoyable thing. And I remember getting inspired by probably two main content creators back in the day for what my channel was originally going to be, which was actually not what you would probably expect. Part of it was gaming. Yes, it was going to be part gaming channel. The gaming part was inspired by Chugga Conroy back in the day, because he was a great Let's Player and just really enjoyed what he showcased, and I felt like that was just really cool. I enjoyed like seeing him talk about the games he loved while playing it and showcasing it. And then the second part, which didn't come into fruitation, but it was actually going to be part music channel, and I was very, very much into music YouTube back in the day. I wasn't a big like pop star guy back in the day, like pop music or like any current forms of music that you'd probably listen to, but I was a huge fan of what he still goes on now, Kurt Hugo Schneider. That is the YouTube channel. He was basically a pioneer of like really cool music videos and like mashups, and I was a huge fan of that back in the day, and I was really inspired by like what he was doing. So I decided to make a YouTube channel to try and combine both efforts, because I was also doing music in school, but also playing video games, and I just wanted to showcase that. So most of it was mostly gaming, because I just had like this camcorder that I had, and I would literally hold it like with a cup, I think, when I was playing, lying down, and then I was just showcasing my 3DS back in the day, and that was scuffed quality, the classic, no capture cards or anything back in the day, and I would just be showcasing what I really loved to enjoy playing, which was actually Kid Icarus Uprising. I wanted to showcase Kid Icarus Uprising to the world, because there was not as much footage of like the hardest difficulty on Kid Icarus Uprising back in the day. So that's what I did.
Wow, I had no idea you had a musical background. So do you play any instruments?
Oh, actually, music is always such a funny topic for me, because would you believe me if I played, I don't even remember how many number of instruments, but I know it was at least 7 back in the day.
Wow. 7 instruments. Okay, could you list what they were?
Okay, so I'm not sure if we're going to count the first one, because I don't know if we technically count this as an instrument, but have you ever played the recorder?
I thought you were going to say the triangle then, but yeah, no, I have. I have played the recorder, actually, yeah. I think certainly when I was younger, my generation, very much like everyone at school in the early years, you learn the recorder.
So I actually don't know if I count recorder as an instrument. I played it for like 1 year, because like I'm pretty sure most schools, I know Japan does, because for some reason that there's always this anime like scenario with a recorder, which is always kind of weird to me. But like I don't even know if they still do this in US schools, but I did play a recorder for like 1 year in 4th grade. I don't know if we're counting that, but I wasn't counting that, I think. But yeah, it was recorder there. Then 5th grade, I was playing flute for like half the year. I was a huge fan of flute. I was really bad at it too. Like like my teacher told me I was really bad, and I agree. I think I was really bad at the flute, so they made me switch to clarinet. No, to be fair, like one of the important things is like how to position the mouth.
Right, yeah.
Because you have to like have a very specific shape with your lips in order to like blow the air, and I was just terrible at that. Like it was not for me. So switched off the flute. I don't know if I do count that because I actually did learn a lot about the flute. Like I learned a lot of scales and stuff, but I was just terrible at it regardless. And then I switched to clarinet, and clarinet was probably one of the main ones I had for like at least 3 years. Because I did clarinet for 5th grade, 6th grade, half of 7th grade, until I actually switched over to the tenor saxophone because we didn't have a tenor sax in my school's band, and we were like, switch to tenor sax, I suppose, because we need one. He would make us play like make me play the tenor sax part on the clarinet because we needed that role, and then he just made me switch over to tenor sax. So there was that, and also during middle school, I was also like in my school's glee club, which then I actually had to do like multiple instruments I was learning at the time, which involved the piano, the guitar, and the ukulele at the same time. So all of this in middle school, I was learning all 3 of those, or all 4 or 5 of those instruments at once. If you ask me to play those now, I think the only one I could probably say I could probably still do out of those times is probably clarinet and tenor sax, because I didn't really focus on much as piano. I wasn't the best piano player. I could never get the left hand unsynchronized from my right hand.
Sure.
So I was just bad at that. Guitar I can maybe do a bit. Ukulele I can do a bit, but otherwise not really. And yeah, like there was one more, but I always forget which one this is. So because I only played it for like a week or 2, so I'm not going to try to. Oh yeah, no, I did try to trumpet for like a week, but I said no.
Okay. Yeah. That's a broad range of instruments as well. Brass and woodwind, as well as strings in there. Very, very impressive roster. When you said, you were playing 3 or 4 at the same time, I was literally picturing you playing them at the same time. But, okay, fantastic. And now we will go from there into what's going to be the second Pokemon on your dream team. So who's going to be joining Piplup?
Oh, man, I think we're going to have a classic because I think there's probably no Pokemon that is not as known as this one, and it has to be Pikachu, man. It has to be Pikachu.
Pikachu, the mascot, the Pokemon that we all love, and it's a Pokemon that a few of my guests in the past have chosen. Always fascinating to see the big guy Pikachu being chosen. So, what are your reasons for this one, James?
I mean, there's so much about Pikachu, right? I did watch the Pokemon anime as a kid. It was a big part of childhood. It's probably one of the interactions I probably have had with the most. I did play like a lot of characters and also the fighting game Pokken as well. And Pikachu was one of my secondary characters that I did play. So, yeah, I mean, Pikachu just, I think, is a big staple of like a lot of like childhood Pikachu memories for like, as a kid. I think most people know what Pikachu is. It's probably the most iconic. It's probably one I've had a lot of conversations with, just because like whenever someone asks me about like Pokemon, it's like usually they're like, oh, I know Pikachu, and then they'll be able to recognize it. So I've definitely had a lot of conversations with it.
Yeah, that's understandable. It's the gateway into talking to people who perhaps aren't so involved in Pokemon. Pikachu zapping its way onto the team, and now we'll zip from there over to your first World Championships.
The 2014 Pokemon World Championship, a classic. Now, Worlds was always usually like on the West Coast by then, but the first time it was coming to the East Coast, Washington, D.C., I remember I did play that season competitively, but I didn't go to as many events because back then you did have to like go to Nationals if you wanted a chance at the World Championship, and I didn't go to Nationals that year. So the Pokemon World Championship for 2014 was the same. I didn't qualify, but I still went. And they actually had something that is no longer a thing. I kind of wish they brought it back, but it's called the Last Chance Qualifier. And what the Last Chance Qualifier is, it's a single elimination tournament to have the final 4 Pokemon trainers in that tournament get an invite to compete in the main World Championship event. So anyone can play, and it is a brutal tournament because best of 1 single elim, or not best of 1 single elim, but single elimination, best of 3, you can't make mistakes. And even though I was in the senior division that year, I did end up playing that last chance qualifier, and I was actually able to qualify. I was able to, I think, beat 7 trainers in a row in order to advance to the top 4, which meant I was able to get my World Championship invite. And then I played the main event the next day, and it was definitely one of the highlights, I think, because that was the first year I took seriously a competitive Pokemon from like that Kid Icarus Uprising transition to competitive Pokemon. That 2014 season was the first one I decided, hey, I'm going to try decently well. And yeah, I did have like a few decent accomplishments. I think I had like top 16 at regionals, but nothing like super crazy. And this was like the first breakout, and I think that's really the event that started it all.
Wow. And to qualify through the last chance qualifier as well. I mean, when you entered that last chance qualifier, were you just sort of doing it on a whim, saying it'll be cool if it happens, but it's never going to? How much did you believe in yourself as a Pokemon trainer at that point?
I don't think I really believed in like me being able to qualify. I'm just like, I'm here to have fun. Like, I'm exploring this World Championship for the first time. I'm just going to play the game that's ahead of me and just see how it goes. And I just kept winning and winning. Granted, the first round was stressful. Like, I remember because I had a Hydreigon and my opponent had a Ferrothorn. And I was about to lose. That said, because my Hydreigon, all it had to do was hit one Fire Blast, because I didn't have Flamethrower, I had Fire Blast. And it kept missing. I'm like, am I really going to get eliminated the first round just because I can't hit a single fire type attack into this Ferrothorn? And yeah, otherwise, like, I just kept advancing. Like, I had played Pokemon with my friends, like, competitively. Like, I met a few in the community. I was even tutoring back then for competitive Pokemon. And yeah, like, it was just great to see that I was able to actually make a great statement at that World Championship, because I was actually able to qualify. And a fun fact, one of my friends in TCG, who is also a New York local, also qualified through the last chance qualifier, but for the TCG side. So I thought that was really neat.
Oh, wow. Yeah, fantastic. I mean, but if you were coaching competitive Pokemon at this point, you must have known, you must have believed in yourself on some level.
I think coaching, I mean, it's kind of, I think it meant a different meaning than like what we think now of like, pay someone like quite a bit of money in order to actually teach. Like, I think I had a disciple basically, which it was just one of my friends who, it was one of the seniors who like asked me if I could help them get better at the game, because they actually still performed at a decent level. But when we would play, I would be usually the winner. So we did talk a lot on Discord as well, or not Discord, Skype back in the day. And it just happened to do that. So we had a lot of like training sessions back in the day.
Okay, sure. And then, I mean, talk us through your experience at those World Championships. I mean, did you sort of believe in yourself more strongly round on round?
I would say probably not. I think seniors is kind of a strange avenue, especially back in the day, because it was definitely a different vibe. I didn't even know how many rounds I needed to win in order to actually make it. So I was like, yeah, I'll just play as I play along. And every win did feel good, but like, I was like, I could just lose at any moment. It's the game we play. So I just kept going. The only round I knew that I was like, okay, this is how many need to win, it was late the last round, where it's like, oh, you guys are the final 8 left. This is the last round. So a bit nail biting, but was able to win that one in a really close game 3. I brought a really, I mean, I wouldn't say it was a crazy team, but I did bring Sock to that World Championship, which is like the blue fighting type from Gen 5, and it came in clutch at that World Championship. I will say it came in clutch and got me a big knockout to the Mega Kangaskhan game 3 of that tournament, or the last chance qualifier final round, for me to make it through.
Sorry, where did you finish at that World Championships?
So after an amazing last chance qualifier, I played, and then unfortunately, as I said, RNG is a thing in this game. And it's actually funny because I remember one round where it was like I was playing a Japanese senior, like, who only spoke Japanese, really young kid, and we didn't like know the language, but literally we were both laughing at the end of it, because I knew like how RNG related this game was, because I lost this game because of how like silly it can be. Like, I think I was missing like a bunch of Fire Blasts. I think I was getting crit a bunch, and I'm like, yeah, that's just how it goes. I mean, I was just happy to be there at that point, and like me and the kid looked at each other and we were just laughing. And yeah, that's just like how it went sometimes. But yeah, I think I finished. It was either 33rd or 36th, but I'm pretty sure I finished 36th at that World Championship. I went 3-3, if I'm not mistaken, seniors.
Wow, it's not bad at all. Not bad at all for your first World Championships. I mean, congratulations on that. And now it's time to discover what's going to be the third Pokemon on your dream team alongside Piplup and Pikachu.
I think this one, it might be more interesting because starter and then the main mascot. But this one, I really enjoyed this Pokemon, both competitively, and I think I like its design. It's Clefairy.
Clefairy, another little one as well. I'm loving the love for the little Pokemon coming out here. Yeah. So, why Clefairy?
I like Clefairy, especially because shout outs to the late Angel Miranda, rest in peace. But he really got me into the Clefairy train back in the day, where it was like Kang Clef for VGC 2015, which was Kangaskhan Clefairy combination. You had to follow me redirection with Clefairy, set up with Kangaskhan and other partners, and it was just a really strong duo. Like Clefairy has been a lot about my VGC achievements actually, because it got me my first Master Regionals top cut. Like I was able to use Kangaskhan Clefairy to get second place at the Madison Regional Championship, which was in 2015. And then it even got me my first regional championship win back in VGC 2018. And my first Nationals day too, and I guess 2015 as well, with the same team from Madison Regionals, but it was just slight differences. But I still had Kangaskhan Clefairy, and I absolutely just love how Clefairy plays. And yeah, it's just a fun Pokemon. I even use it to this day. I literally just brought it to the Vancouver Regional Championship. I just love Friend Guard. I think it's an incredible ability that's unique in doubles. I love how what Clefairy can do support wise with Heal Pulse and a bunch of other options. Like I just think it's an awesome Pokemon.
Really interesting moves, and to explain for anyone unfamiliar, just briefly, follow me redirects attacks so that they go into Clefairy instead of the ally Pokemon on your side of the field. Competitive Pokemon in the official format is 2 Pokemon versus your opponent's 2 Pokemon. Heal Pulse means that it can heal up its ally Pokemon. Friend Guard, it's going to bolster the defenses of the ally Pokemon on your side of the field too. So, Clefairy, waggling its finger, welcome to James's Dream Team. Now, we're going to go on to the fact that you planned to take a hiatus.
Yeah, this was VGC 2019, where I think this was a cinema like sequence of events, but basically 2019 was a pretty big series, I think, in my school life current at the moment. So like I was in college back then, and Pokemon to me, Sun Series wasn't exactly the most fun, which was the Gen 7 restricted format, and wasn't really having the most fun, but I had happened to get a travel award to compete in Brazil in 2019 because of a sequence of events. The 2018 Toronto Regionals win, which was his first regional championship win, into the 4th place that I was able to get at Roanoke Regionals the weekend after, into a top 64 Nationals performance. Ended up getting me a travel award because they ended up switching travel awards and how they did it. So originally it used to be like the top finishers of I think the season end for the 2018 season would originally get into the 2019 season, or at least that's how they did previously for travel awards and travel stipends to the first international. But they actually switched it to do a quarterly system. So it was based off the quarters. And since quarter 4 involved Toronto, Roanoke, and NIC, I ended up having enough championship points to end up qualifying for a travel award to Brazil. And let me just say, like, I wasn't enjoying Pokemon super big back then. I went to like one regional championship, which was like, I think Oaksville or something similar. It was like in the outskirts of Philadelphia, and I finished 33rd. And back then, in order to get championship points, it was top 32 for that event specifically. So basically, wasn't a great start, wasn't enjoying the format, and I'm like, I'm gonna give it all my all for Brazil, because I still had yet to top cut like one of the major national / international championships. So I really want to do well, and I'm like, okay, I'll give myself a chance because I have this opportunity, and I am going to take the most advantage that I can out of it. But if I do bomb this event, I'll probably at least take maybe the year off and focus on college. So ended up going to Brazil after spending a month grinding the game for at least an hour every single day. And that LIC was something crazy. Like, it was my first time traveling internationally, unless you count, I don't really count North America of US and Canada. So it was my first time abroad. And I ended up squeaking into the top cut because I ended up having a 5-2 record at the end of it. And that was basically based off resistance on who would make it into top 8. And I was able to squeak in. So I was in top 8 of that major event. And then I ended up winning both my top 8 match and then my top 4 against a good friend of mine and ended up making it to the finals. So all this hard work ended up paying off, where originally I wasn't going to be playing for most of the events, I think, in the future. Now it just ended up becoming a lot of Pokemon that I was going to be playing throughout the season to get a travel award to the World Championship, the day 2 invite. And yeah, I think it just spurred one of the greatest seasons, I think, that a North American player has ever done in the history of the game.
I mean, the next question that's begged here, of course, is how that finals went for you.
Unfortunately, the finals, I mean, the finals was interesting. It was the same matchup I played in top 4 because literally my opponent, Jeremy, and my finals opponent, Ashton, are best friends, and they're really good friends of mine. So we were talking about, it's actually funny because me and Ashton, most of that weekend, we're playing Melee against each other in the hotel. It's instead of like talking about Pokemon. But yeah, so I think like they just had different game plans and ideas of like how to approach the matchup. Like game 1, like Ashton beat me like pretty clearly. Game 2, I think I could have won, but I did have to go for a Hurricane immediately, and I did miss that Hurricane out of rain, and that's just how it goes sometimes when you're running into low accuracy moves and rely on the weather to make up for it. So it wasn't the best finals that I ever performed, but it's actually funny because the next week I didn't plan to go to a regional championship, but there was a regional championship again in Roanoke. I always go there for some reason last minute because one of my friends always offers to drive apparently after I do well in an event. And it's actually funny because I rematched Ashton for the winning in of the Roanoke top cut, and it was actually reverse Uno because I was actually able to beat him at that event and then win the Roanoke regional championship afterward. I didn't lose a single game in top cut, so I think I actually had one of my best game records ever at that tournament. I think I only lost 3 individual games throughout the entire event. I think I went like 18-3 or something like that in order to win that tournament. So that was definitely something that was just super exciting, and it just led to this like birth of like a bunch of other high level placements. I was able to get a top 8 at Oceania, into another regional championship win in Daytona, into a top 16 at the North American International Championship, and a great Worlds run. So yeah, it was definitely one of the highlights, I think, of my career.
I know we're going to be talking about that Worlds run in just a moment. It's often the way. I think a lot of listeners and watchers will be able to identify with, you decide, well, the pressure's off, I'm not really going to focus on this, whatever it may be, too much. And then all of a sudden it starts to go well, and it's probably precisely because you've taken that pressure off yourself. Is that a feeling that you got?
I think for me, it was, I don't know, I definitely did still feel pressure back in the day of doing well, because every event could have meant like the end of a travel award, end of a day 2. So I was still getting like travel awards or stipends to go to these major events. And yeah, I mean, I really want to do well at that World Championship too, because I had a winning in for the 2016 World Championship, but I haven't really done well at a Worlds level. Like the last time I competed in the day 2 at that time was 2016. So I really wanted to run back, especially with like how the previous World Championships like was just one set away from just being able to make it into the day 2 again, and then hopefully having a good day 2 run. That run, I was just able to have a good day 2, or day 2, like I was already in day 2, and Yeah, like, I mean, there's still a lot of pressure at the end of the day. I think it was probably more pressure than back in the 2014 era because there was a lot more on the line. Pokemon grew so much more, I think, back then. But yeah, and I think the expectations were higher. But yeah, I mean, I felt like you just got to keep going and not really think about it until it really catches up.
Wise words indeed. So now it's time to discover what's going to be the fourth Pokemon joining Piplup, Pikachu, and Clefairy.
And I just realized the order of this. I mean, these are literally like my top. It was my top 3 Pokemon, and this is also my 4 favorite Pokemon. So, but I wish the reasoning could be different, but it is going to be Grovyle specifically. And
Grovyle,
yeah,
okay. So the evolution of Trico, and before it evolves into Sceptile, it's that middle stage. So why Grovyle?
I think if anyone knows about this Pokemon, they probably have played the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series, Pokemon Mystery Dungeons Explorers Time, Darkness, Sky. I think that game is a beautiful story, and I think Grovyle is one of the most inspirational characters like I've ever seen in a video game, of a selfless guy. Like, he's a villain technically at the start who is misunderstood, but at the end of the day, he is just someone who's fighting for a cause that's just to help like a bunch of Pokemon, I guess. And I think it's just a selfless hero that you don't really see too often. So I do really love Grovyle. His story, his motivation, like everything about that game I do enjoy. And yeah, that's why he's one of my favorite Pokemon.
This is really fascinating to hear. Person after person says to me that their favorite Pokemon game of all time is Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky because of the story, because of the music. Was it as soon as you were playing through Explorers of Sky that you thought, okay, this Grovyle is speaking to me on some level? Or was it only since you played that you realized Grovyle is one of your favorites?
I think it was the moment I was playing through the game, especially like the background history. Like, I think Time in Darkness, which is the one I played first, like definitely was like one of my favorites. And then it just became a clear favorite after you played the extra story that Sky has, where it's Grovyle. And yeah, I think it's just like incredible messaging that Grovyle provides, and I think it's just a beautiful character.
If you could summarize that message that Grovyle provides without sort of going too much into details, what would it be?
I think Grovyle just wants everyone to have a fight for a better future, to help as many people as he can, and to see the light of the next day.
Beautifully summarised. Well, thank you, James, and welcome to the Team Grovyle. So now it's time to talk about those 2019 World Championships.
The 2019 World Championship. It's definitely something. 2016, I actually had a chance to get a day 2 invite to the World Championship as well. I needed to do well at the U.S. National back then, and unfortunately, I did bomb that National Championship. So 2019 was able to acquire day 2 World Championship. And it's a interesting story because after one regional championship, it was the final one, it was the Madison Regional Championship, I ended up committing back towards a similar concepts to what I used back in the 2019 LIC, which was Sun Series, but 2019 involved 3 different rotation series where we had dual restricted for the first series, and then it would evolve where you have dual restricteds, but no Mega Evolutions, no Z Crystals. Then the Moon series, which was for 4 more months, was dual restricted, but they added the Z Crystals, no Mega Evolutions. And then finally, the Ultra series, which was dual restricted, anything goes basically, because you have Z Crystals and you have Mega Evolutions. So now everything was coming into play. And even though the core of my team from Sun Series wasn't exactly as common as it was in 2019 Ultra Series, I still ended up bringing the exact same 6, just a few different slight changes. Primal Kyogre was now a thing, so my Kyogre ended up having some changes. But overall, like, I did basically bring that exact same 6 to the World Championship that year. I committed it after and went on a really good streak at NIC into the World Championship, brought that team every day, was grinding with that team to do well at this World Championship because I knew that this is a team I could definitely pilot differently. It wasn't a common archetype at all during them, but thought it was a archetype that most players wouldn't have much knowledge of, and there's no one who knows that team in and outs better than myself. So ended up choosing that team. No Mega Evolution. A Z Crystal got added to Tornadus, and yeah, ended up running it all the way to make it into the semifinals and finally make not only a world's top cut for the first time, but a huge accomplishment onto that top 8 and top 4 on the grand stage.
Really, the next milestone in your long career. Just briefly, for anyone who's not familiar with Mega Evolutions and Z Crystals, can you summarize those?
Yeah, Z Crystals are a held item that basically give a one-time super move to the user. You could use it once per battle, and it'll give a powered-up version of the attack. And it can vary depending on the base power of the original move that you use at Z Crystal. So you just get a really more powerful attack one-time use, and it does damage to protect as well, which is actually relevant. And then Mega Evolutions are basically a step up from evolutions, I guess. Basically, there are forms that Mega Evolutions are that you can only access during battle, and a Pokemon has to hold its Mega Stone in order to Mega Evolve. Only certain Pokemon can Mega Evolve, and you can only Mega Evolve once per battle. So there were a lot of Pokemon back in the day that were able to get really good abilities off this, form changes as well as like stat changes and some different abilities and stuff. Mega Kangaskhan, for instance, was a big one where you would be able to get 2 attacks off in the same turn, basically, because it was able to hit twice. Salamence was able to become a strong hitter with its aerial ability, increasing the power of its normal type moves and transforming them into flying type attacks, which would give it the same type attack bonus. So it'd be able to hit really hard, and these Mega Evolutions were pretty big, especially going into the 2019 Ultra Series.
After you'd, well, I guess the first question here is then, where did you end up finishing at that 2019 World Championships, for anyone who doesn't know?
I had finished in 3rd place. I had gotten a really good win in top 8, then was immediately casted away to play my top 4 set immediately after. And yeah, I had a really good game 1. Like, I had a really dominant game 1. And then game 2 and 3, I kind of slipped it away. I didn't have the information, unfortunately, which was pretty big back then. Like, I knew like he was on stream, but I didn't know that I didn't know like the stack attack moveset. I knew it was a Z Crystal, but I didn't know also the Tapu Fini didn't have Haze, which actually was a big impactor, because that meant I could have actually probably brought Xerneas into a game 2 or 3 situation. And I also didn't know about like the Lunala fully, so I was down a bit on information. So yeah, I kind of just blew away game 2 and 3 because I went with game plans that just would not have worked well with knowing what his current sets are. I definitely wouldn't have messed around with those game plans.
Okay, well, I mean, 3rd place is an incredible achievement, and I mean, once you reach 3rd day, you know, once the dust had settled, looking back, did you think, my game is just getting better and better? Were you looking back with pride on that achievement?
I think the moment I lost, for sure, like the immediate moment I lost, I was pretty upset at myself, because I was like, this turn 1, also the way I threw it in game 3, like I was rushing too quick. I was feeling too full about myself. Like, I locked in immediately, and then I just realized, like, based on the way I'm playing, that he should never go for a protect at all with Groudon. So it, like, could have gave me a spore potential, but instead I think I just end up losing my Amoonguss like immediately on the spot, because I didn't go for fake out with my Incineroar because of the way I kept U-turning mostly around the game. So I'm like, oh, if I just click fake out and spore, I just am in such a good spot to win this game. And then I just lose the Amoonguss immediately. I'm like, I'm kicking myself for that. And yeah, like I asked to be alone for a while. Like, there were my friends who were supporting me. Like, I was claiming the stuff that you get for the prizing, and I'm like, man, I really blew it. And I spent there probably like 20-30 minutes like thinking about it. But then afterward, got cheered up, and I thought, wow, I had an immaculate season. Like, there are very few players who could accomplish this level of consistency in this game that we know as Pokemon. And yeah, I mean, I did go and on to, I think back then I was still hungry for a big major win after all. So I had a few flops at the regionals, I think, afterward. I still played pretty well. I was just getting a bit unlucky, but that's just how Pokemon goes sometimes. And then I was actually able to claim my first major win by winning the 2020 LIC, which the year before was that second place one. And then I was able to claim that title and win in 2020 to capitalize off and finish off one of the most consistent, I think, year spans of Pokemon anyone's have ever played in this game.
Huge congratulations to you on that victory. Once you'd won that Latin America International Championships, I mean, how did that feel for you? Was it like just more motivation to keep going, or did you feel like you'd sort of put something at rest in your mind? How did it feel?
I thought it felt amazing because it was like a big win back in the day. And I definitely felt like I could definitely push forward, I think, because I was definitely playing some of the best I've ever played, I think, even to this day in general. Like the level of knowledge that I just had, the mindset, the play style, I think it was just perfect for back then. And it was just forcing me to, I think, just keep going, I think, overall. Although I think we all know about like the 2020 and how that season got put to a stop thanks to the pandemic and the lockdown. So unfortunately, it did kind of cool things off a bit.
Well, the world had other ideas, but I'm glad that you were able to get that achievement that you'd worked so hard towards. And now it's time to discover what's going to be Pokemon number 5 on your dream team alongside Piplup, Pikachu, Clefairy, and Grovyle.
I think I have to include this one because, you know, I think it is the signature Pokemon that people know me for. It is going to be Kyogre, which... It's actually funny. I've talked about literally how I brought Jolly Kyogre to a regional championship way back in the day when I was not great at Pokemon. It was actually, that was the first regional championship I actually ever got to play in too. So I got a redemption arc as well. Like that world championship was such a big thing because not only was it a run back from like really young James who didn't know what he was doing to the James who was starting out competitive Pokemon, because 2014 and 2019 were both held in the Washington, D.C. It was the exact same convention center too. So everything was just an accumulation of this journey that I went through, and Kyogre was basically there most of the way.
Yeah, I love how that comes full circle, going all the way back to when you didn't know as much about how natures and competitive Pokemon work, but it was stuck right by you all the way. I think you said you played Generation 3. Was Sapphire your game of choice?
I think it was Sapphire at my cousin's house, and then it was Fire Red at my friend's house. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so Sapphire is, of course, the game that Kyogre is the mascot of. Had you always liked Kyogre in terms of design or what have you?
I think I was pretty neutral about the legendaries in general. Like, I think the only big legendaries that really stood out to me back in the day when I was young was like Palkia, because I was a huge space exploration, huge fan of like the unknown. But like Kyogre was like, all right, it wasn't like, I didn't really have any like big feelings toward any of the legendaries back in the day. Like I think Gen 1 to Gen 3, although I did like Ho and Lugia, but those weren't based off the games. It was more of like anime, and then Lugia, the movie, which actually it's funny because we talked about that music thing, and one of the reasons I chose to play flute is because it was the closest to Ocarina, and I actually did play an Ocarina in middle school because I wanted one, and I got one, and I learned how to play it a bit.
Oh, wow. Okay. And coming full circle again with the music there too. Okay, well, Kyogre providing a downpour over the team here with its drizzle ability. But before we discover what's going to be the final Pokemon on your dream team, James, time to talk about what you've called the GameStop era.
I think, this is such a different topic. We went from Icarus Uprising Tournaments, which kind of was Pokemon related, as well as my YouTube channel, which was also Pokemon related. The other 3 stories were all Pokemon accumulations. And then we just have this random one that I dubbed you as the GameStop era, which technically doesn't have to do with specifically GameStop, but if for anyone who knows anything about like stocks and the stock market, the 2021 era, which was like this GameStop, they call it the short squeeze, where basically GameStop was like $3 to $4 a share. Most people were thinking like a hedge fund was betting against GameStop, thinking its share price would go down so they could make money off it. and then they ended up buying into the stock to try to raise the price so the short sellers would lose all this money. And it was a huge thing on the internet. Like it went from $4 to a share, and I think it went to like 350 something at like its peak price. And then like, yeah, it obviously has come down from then, but it was a huge thing back in the day. And I was learning finance in college, so I knew some stuff about stocks, but I never invested money at my own because for, I don't know, it's kind of weird, but for getting like financial aid, like it's better to not have any stocks, so I didn't ever invest. But after I was graduating college in 2021, and once I graduated college in 2021, I started looking at investing. And even though I wasn't part of the GameStop era, that made a shift because now people were talking about a stock known as AMC. I don't know if you know, but it is the movie. It's like the movie theaters company, where it's a brand of movie theaters basically. And I had a bunch of friends just tell me, "Oh, AMC is going to go to the moon." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not sure about that one," but they were telling me, they were showing me the GameStop, and I'm like, fine, I'll look into it. I looked into it a bit. I still didn't technically believe it, but like, you know, I had a bit, I guess I could just put in. So I did put in some. And then it's funny because a few days later, the stock got attention on the internet, and it was rising like quite heavily. I think I just kind of learned, A, the finance markets are really powerful, and B, it's like I started looking into, like, I wasn't really interested, I think, in college. I took accounting and I took finance because it was like the safer routes in general. I also took business management. So I started looking into it more. And I really think I just got started into the habit of actual investing, not like me stock investing like it was back then. But ironically, that catalyst ended up making me click into my brain like, oh, this is actually really important to learn. So started learning a lot about like asset management and like different types of investing. And yeah, it's become an important thing. And I think it's a huge factor of like having a healthy life in general is like the importance of personal finance and financial education.
Absolutely. I'm just, the words that you said at the beginning of that topic there were ringing in my ears. That really couldn't have been a bigger departure from the topics that we were talking about before, but you're so right. And the fact that it tied in with your studies as well. So that's sort of what you majored in.
Yeah, I dual majored in college. I was business management / finance, and then also accounting as well. So I did take some pretty hard topics in college. Haven't really used much of the information, I think, in general, but like I think having some of the basics might have helped. I'm not sure about that one, but I do think the topic was a lot more interesting, I think, once I actually got out of college and started applying it to real life.
I'm sure it did help, and it sounds like it did. Okay, well, James, now it's time to round out what this dream team is going to be. So who's going to be Pokemon number 6?
I thought about this a lot because there were between 3 candidates, but so I'm gonna leave one out. So Tornadus I originally was gonna have because I'm really known for the Torn Ogre duo, but like I did top cut another world championship in 2022 with Torn. Kyogre once again. It was like a run back my 2019 team, but a few changes. I didn't really bring Torn to that many of the events. Kyogre was definitely the big star. So even though Torn was a part of the team, and I'm really well known for using Tornadus and pioneering that mon, I don't think it's going to fit on that team, unfortunately. Incineroar is also like a Pokemon that's probably I'm really well known for, just because it won me the first regional championship. It's been on all my world's top cut teams. I didn't win internationals with it, but I've done well at the regional level with it so many times. Like it was part of my core staple. And I used to be like considered the best Incineroar player before Generation 9 happened because I had like the most accomplishments with Incineroar than any other player. So could have been Incineroar, but I don't want another starter, I think. So I'm going to go with one of my favorite Pokemon just to use because I really liked Mega Evolutions as a concept. So I'm going to go with Mega Kangaskhan. I love playing Mega Kangaskhan. It is such a fun Pokemon to play. It was just a great Pokemon all around. Not really too many weaknesses to exploit. It just does good damage. It was big staple. I also love the concept, by the way, like being able to hit twice in one turn even though it's a weakened hit on the second hit, it's really, really a solid mon. And yeah, it's definitely been something I really enjoyed using, especially in the early days of my competitive career.
Mega Kangaskhan, pretty infamous at this point back in the competitive Pokemon days where it could be used. Yeah, people who know Generation 1 might be familiar with Kangaskhan and the baby in the pouch. Mega Kangaskhan, that baby hops out, and as you say, James, provides a secondary hit, which proved so crucial in competitive Pokemon. And so this means, James, that your complete dream team is Piplup, Pikachu, Clefairy, Grovyle, Kyogre, and Mega Kangaskhan. And now I have to ask you, which of these Pokemon are you going to choose to be your partner Pokemon?
It's tough because, again, Piplup's my favorite Pokemon. I mean, I love all these Pokemon for separate reasons, right? Especially like Grovyle's messaging. I think like if we were in a mystery dungeon setting, like Grovyle would be a absolutely sick partner to have. A human Grovyle, like in the game itself, but I think battle-wise, like it has to be technically Kyogre, right? Like this Pokemon has pretty much been my main staple since day one, and probably the Pokemon that's given me the best accomplishments. So I think when people talk about me and competitive, like they just know I'm the Kyogre guy. So I think it has to be Kyogre.
Kyogre. And I mean, yeah, as you say, a tough choice, but the fact that Kyogre, you have a history with it, as well as the fact that you've had so many fantastic results after that initial bringing a Kyogre that didn't have the most helpful nature to a tournament. That makes sense. But don't worry, Piplup's still there right by your side as well. But Kyogre will be your partner Pokemon. And now time for a different kind of question, James. If you were a Pokemon, what do you think you would be?
I think this is tough in general. Like I've been asked this several times and I'm just always unsure. I think it would probably be Metagross, because I think there was like I remember there was a Pokedex entry where it was like Metagross is like a computational machine, and I feel like when I'm playing Pokemon, like my head is running through so many simulations of trying to figure out like what the best plays are. So I think that's probably the most relatable to me, but I can't really say for certain.
So you've just decided that you are a walking supercomputer. I love it. And Steel and Psychic. I can see those types of you. What do you all think? Do you agree that of all the Pokemon there are, James would be a Metagross? Let us know in the comments, because we'd be fascinated to read. And speaking of you all, it's time for your community questions. I posted online, as I always do, asking for questions for James. Thank you so much for submitting them. Had some really interesting ones. Sorry I won't be able to feature all of them, and I apologise if I mispronounce any of your names or handles. But starting off with this one from Rayquaza Kingdom on Blue Sky. What's the least competitively viable Pokemon you've tried to make work?
Ooh, I feel like I've tried everything at this point. Like, obviously, I do more interesting stuff, YouTube, Pokemon wise. Like, I don't know. It's hard to say because I feel like I've almost made anything potentially work. Just based off nature, I would say it would probably be like a tournament brought mod that I tried to make work and it just wasn't exactly the best concept. And I almost debated about bringing Kanto Ninetales to the OCIC 2019 series. I almost brought Kanto Ninetales paired with Xerneas and Yveltal for that international championship till I switched over back to Zernoger.
Cantonian Ninetales, yeah, we very rarely see that. People will be familiar with Ninetales from Generation 1, of course, and now has an Alolan form as well, Ninetales, form native to the Alola region. Cantonian Ninetales fire type, setting up the sun as well. And with Xerneas and Yveltal, the mascot pair from Generation 6. What made you tempted to bring Ninetales in the first place?
I needed a way to reduce damage from Kyogre specifically because the Yveltal and Xerneas took a lot of damage from like water spouts. So having a way to change the weather. I also had Psych Up on the Kanto Ninetales so I could Psych Up Geomancy boost so it can actually do something. But even at +2, it wasn't really doing the most incredible damage. Really. But that was the concept of it, basically.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, Psych Up copying your... copying the target stat boosts and Geomancy boosting Xerneas. Okay, well, great question, Rayquaza Kingdom. Thank you for that. Now, question from Johnny Hacks on X. What's your favorite team you've ever played in a big event?
I think this is split between two. And the most consistent one, I'd have to say, is basically the 6 Pokemon I've been bringing the entire 2019 format: Kyogre, Xerneas, Cortana, Tornadus, Incineroar, Mungus. I think those 6 have a very dear place in my heart. It's always a fun composition, and I felt like I understood it better than anyone has ever had. And yeah, it's definitely something that I just enjoyed throughout every iteration of the team that I've worked on. But I would probably say the one I could really think about was my 2015 Worlds team, the team I brought to my first Masters World Championship, which was Gengar with Mega Evolution, Whimsicott, Terrakion, Politoed. Oh, I always forget these last two. I know it's Life Orb Heatran, and then this, because it kept changing, but it was, oh yeah, it was Fundus Varian as well. I had a few iterations with it, and one of my friends in the senior division brought it to Worlds as well. I think he replaced the Politoed with his Azumarill, but I'm pretty sure the final 6 was Gengar, Terrakion, Whimsicott, Varian, Heatran, and Politoed. Yeah, it was those 6.
Sounds like a really fun team. What briefly was it for you that made that team so fun?
I think I was the only Mega Gengar player at that World Championship, because Mega Gengar, even though it was a really strong Pokemon, didn't have the best supports like it did probably in Generation 7. It was a team that just had so many different modes that you had to play against, and it was really hard to figure out. I think I had so many different combinations that I could just accomplish with that team. It was something that no one really expected going to that World Championship. I think it had a good matchup into the meta of the World Championship too, because a lot of players brought like Kangaskhan standard mostly, and then I had Terrakion with beat up Whimsicott, and beat up is a multi-hit dark type move with Terrakion's ability justified that increases its attack stat every time you're hit by a dark move, so you can get a +4 on the Terrakion and get big knockouts immediately. Really fast speed tier. Then I also had the Mega Gengar with Shadow Attack for trapping. I had Gengar Whimsicott as a fantastic duo because I had fake tears on the Whimsicott move that could just lower the special defense by 2 stages. And then also a really strong hit from the Mega Gengar with a really high special attack stat with Sludge Bomb and Shadow Ball to do massive damage, get knockouts. And then I also had, with that combination, Encore on the Whimsicott, which forces the opponent to lock into the move that I used previously, as well as Gengar's Disable, which prevents them using the last move they used previously. And it was just a bunch of different modes that I had. And with Shadow Attack, Trapping in Encore Disable, they would be locked into using Struggle, which is a really weak move that also just does 25% recoil to the user. So there were just so many different modes, and I could go from like self beat up into the Terrakion. I could lead Gengar Whimsicott. I have Encore Disable mode. I have Fake Tears, get a KO mode. I could switch out to Gengar because Gengar's weak to dark moves into Terrakion. If they go for a dark move into Terrakion and I also go for beat up, I just get like +5 immediately. And just, yeah, there were so many fun things about that team that I absolutely enjoyed.
A difficult team to know how to approach for your opponents. That does sound like a lot of fun for you, less fun for those opponents. Thank you for that, Johnny. Now, a question from, I might just spell this one out because I'm really not sure how to pronounce it. KASHSHHDS8824. There we go. On YouTube, I believe. What, in your opinion, is the most important thing to do to prepare for tournaments?
I think Pokemon and preparing for any kind of tournament or event that has luck factors like poker and Pokemon is to focus on the things that you have specifically control over. So there are a lot of things that could just flip at a moment's eye, especially with RNG. So the only things that you can really do to prepare, I think, for Pokemon specifically would be the team you bring, which is like the decisions between items, movesets, EV spreads, all that. Like those are the only things you can really control before a tournament. Your game plans, like how much do you know about like these matchups that you can prepare for, and the other one is how comfortable you are with the team. Do you know your team's in and outs? Those are basically I think the only real big factors you can control. Like there'll be stuff like, oh, you didn't get a good night's sleep, you had some other issues. Like there are so many things that influence a player throughout like a tournament that could just go completely wrong. But those are probably the three in your most favorable factor of control. So those are the only things you can really prepare for. Otherwise, you're just rolling the dice, and hopefully the other factors like luck, matchups that you face, your schedule, like all of those things, you're just hoping that you get decent rolls there. But focus on the things you can control.
I mean, it's great advice for life at large as well. Focus on the things you can control. Thank you very much for that question. And now, final question from, again, not sure how to pronounce this, but Spencer Henschen would like to know, what has been, big question this, what's been your favourite moment playing VGC?
Oh, man. What's my favorite moment playing VGC? I don't know, because I feel like there's like a few ways to interpret it. Is it like throughout VGC in general, or like was it a moment where I'm specifically playing and like something big happened? So man, this is...
I'm not sure. Yeah, so you can define it for yourself however you would like.
Yeah, because I feel like this could be interpreted a few ways. I would say my favorite moments when it involved me specifically playing was the winning in moment for 2019 Worlds. The moment I ended up going 5-1, guaranteeing my top cut position at the 2019 World Championship, because I made it was an incredibly difficult set versus a really strong opponent, and I felt like this is the validation. All the years that I played made it into that top cut. And then I would say I really love rooting for my friends when they do well at events, because Pokemon for me was also like a journey of friendship, and seeing my friends accomplish the things at the highest levels especially was one of the greatest joys that I've had.
It's all about the community in this game. Thank you very much for that question. Thank you for answering, James, and thank you for all of the questions in this episode. If you'd like to submit a question for a future guest on Chazingdra Chats, keep an eye on my socials. I'm at Chazingdra across everything. That's where I post the call-outs for questions. I'd love to hear what you'd love to hear. Right then, James, so we've heard a lot about you up to now, but what's next for you?
What is next for me? Right now, I've been taking a step back from the competition. I think I'll probably see how we move on from Gen 9, whether we go to Gen 10, whether we go to Champions. I'm not exactly sure, but at the moment, I think I'm taking it pretty easy right now and focusing on making the best videos that I can make about competitive Pokemon, and learning the process again of like learning how to edit fresh, as well as like all these different skills that I do have to learn, because it's a lot different from just posting normal battles, doing minimal editing. They actually do take a lot of work, and I'm doing everything from scratch. So I am looking forward to hopefully being able to make some of the best competitive Pokemon video content out there in the future.
Well, as I say, I'm a huge fan of your content already, so if in your mind it's going to be improving, then that's the A, I find it hard to believe because I enjoy it so much already, but B, I'm sure people will be thrilled to hear that. And finally, James, looking back from now as a successful Pokemon content creator and competitor, all the way back to the young James, whose introduction to competitive gaming was actually the Kid Icarus Uprising, and where it all went from there, what advice would you give to that younger version of you?
I think there'd be two things I would mainly say. I could probably say a lot. I'd probably say the two main advices to younger self is focus on your 5 well-being healths, which I counted as physical, mental, social, spiritual, and financial health. Like having those 5 pillars and building a great solid foundation can go a long way, I think, into your overall life quality and happiness. And then the other thing I'd probably say to my younger self would be the biggest risk you can have in life is not taking one at all. Because at the end of the day, take a chance, take moments out of your comfort zone. I never thought I'd be like a guy talking on the internet. I was awkward talking to the camera at first. I started a YouTube channel. It ended up working out extremely well for me. Went to a Pokemon tournament. Those were out of my comfort zones. So many different things. I think I've taken risk and explored and tried out different things in life. And I feel like even though some of them haven't worked out, there have been a few that have really just become a huge home runs.
Really, really fascinating advice there. I've never thought of that first point, the way you put it there, those 5 pillars. And then Biggest risk in life is not taking one at all. That's a really fantastic way of reframing things and making risks seem like just part of the course and something that can ultimately be very healthy. Well, thank you so much for that, James. And the chat does not end there, because now we'll be getting into James's Rapidash round. 15 or so minutes of bonus quickfire questions that James has not prepared for. Things like favourite places that James has been to for Pokemon or otherwise, and where he'd like to go to next. A team that sort of James has tried for a joke or because it's unique, or Pokemon that we rarely see on James's channel, but actually has the most merit in James's experience. Advice that James will give to aspiring content creators or competitors, and taking a bit of a deeper dive into James' experience of the main series Pokemon games, as well as going a little bit further beyond the Pokemon side of things. If that would be of interest to you, then my Patreon is linked below, and you can also now become a YouTube channel member where you can access the Rapidash round and support me as a creator. But fundamentally, I really appreciate the fact that you've listened to or watched this episode in its entirety. So thank you. But if you would like to get to know James a little bit better, you can become a YouTube channel member, or you can find my Patreon linked below. And James, thank you so much for being on Chazingdra Chats. It's been really fascinating and insightful, taking a bit of a deeper dive into everything to do with you, and stories that a lot of your viewers, I'm sure, will not have been familiar with. So thank you.
Oh, it's been awesome. Remember, to those listening, you should be hitting that subscribe button to this chat right here, and you should be leaving a like as well as a comment, because those really do help out with the algorithms and getting this conversation as well as this channel more blown up. So make sure you hit those.
That's so kind of you, James. Thank you. And likewise, make sure you're liking and subscribing to James's fantastic content too. And as James says, would love to hear your thoughts on what James has shared with us in this episode. If any of James's own dream team picks time with any of your own, what would your own dream team of 6 Pokemon be? We would love to hear in the comments. And also on my channel, I stream competitive Pokemon as well as casual playing, including shiny hunting and challenge runs. I'm currently streaming a Soul Link Nuzlocke with Lee Provost, Osirus, a fellow caster and content creator. If I lose a Pokemon, Lee loses a Pokemon as we try and get through the game. If a Pokemon faints so we can't use it again, it's going to be a lot of fun. At the time of recording, we're actually starting that challenge tonight, and I cannot wait to see how that goes. James, I might be assigned Piplup as my starter. I put out a poll online, and we'll see if Piplup was decided for me, or indeed for Lee. We'll see how that goes. But all sorts there. I also vlog events that I cast as a Pokemon video game caster. Make silly Pokemon comedy skits. If you're a fan of everything that Pokemon video games have to offer, then my channel is the place for you. The aim of this podcast is to showcase as broad a range of guests as possible, and so to spread the word about the show, you can use hashtag 6Pokemon, one life story. Competitive guests within the video game, as well as trading card game Go and Unite, casters, casual players, YouTubers. There's bound to be something for everyone, and more than 50 episodes of this podcast at this point, so make sure you get involved. Got my socials linked below too. I'm at Chazingdra, X, Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok. Join my Discord community below. It'd be a pleasure to see you in Chazindra's Chocolate Factory. Come and join the merry folk. And episodes of this podcast drop every Wednesday. So with that being said, James, it's now time to jump into your Rapidash round, and if you're not joining us over on Patreon for that, then it's goodbye from James, and it's goodbye from me. See you next time on Chazingdra Chats, where there'll be another 6 Pokemon, one life story. So then, James, how are you feeling about these bonus questions?
I caught some of them, but I couldn't tell what others were because I just forgot. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, no, we'll just walk slowly through it. So, first question that I teased at the end there. So, what's your favourite place you've been to, travelling for Pokemon or not, and where would you like to go next?
I mean, I think my favorite place I've been to, I think most people will probably answer this